How do you build a true Roman temple in Minecraft? You've seen 100 Roman temples built in Minecraft, and let's be honest, most of them look a little bit off. The proportions look wrong, and the details don't quite feel Roman. But why is that? In this video, we're going to be looking into what makes a true Roman temple work, and building one that finally gets it right. The design we're going to be looking at today is a hexastyle temple, which uses the excellently preserved Maison Carrée in Nimes as an example of this style. Hexastyle temples get their names from having 6 columns at the front, and were one of the most common designs used across the Roman Empire due to their medium size and beautiful proportions. So without further ado, let's get on with building a great temple that uses some Roman rules that will help you build better temples in the future. Okay, so the absolute first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a 20 by 40 base. This is going to be where our podium sits for our Roman temple. And the first thing we're going to do to make this podium is we're going to take quartz bricks and do a 5 by 3 rectangle on the front. And these are going to serve as our 2 abutments, they're called, that serve basically as these 2 small blocks either side of the front staircase, known as abutments, and we're going to be building them with a profile of 5 wide, 3 tall in quartz bricks. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build our staircase, and we're going to build this in this example with granite stairs on the edge, and then we're going to extend it up a little bit, and then we're going to want to fill in the backs of these because this is going to really help us build and figure out where we're going to be placing stuff. We want another one up the top, and then we're going to fill in the middle with just some smooth quartz stairs. So for the moment, I mean, what you could do is you could just fill in the entire volume behind this to fill in the podium. It's not necessary. I'm going to basically just do all the outside walls, and that's going to be about it. On the tops of these bits, we're going to place some upside down smooth quartz stairs. Then we're going to come on this side, and we're going to do 3 more to make it 4 deep with the upside down stairs either side. And after it is 4 deep, we're going to stop, and we're basically going to fill in the rest of this with 4 high quartz bricks. So we're going to come up to the 4 high, and then all the way around the edge of your perimeter, so the 20 by 40 perimeter, you're going to want to fill in that whole perimeter right there. So this is going to be quite a tedious step. If you've got world edit, it's going to be way easier to do this. However, if you're going to be placing it, don't fill it in. It's going to take ages. Now, a quick fact about Roman podiums is that, you know, everyone knows that Roman temples, they're built on top of a taller podium compared to Greek temples that had a smaller podium. It's referred to something different. I'm not going to go into that in today's video, but the main concept is that it's a taller podium with 2 abutments either side, which basically encase the staircase at the front and show this is the entrance to the temple. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to be coming from the inside, from the front abutment, 14 blocks. Now we're going to add to this later, but this is basically going to serve as a big reference point for later on in the video when we place our first columns. So we're going to basically fill in this whole area here with quartz bricks. Now, in theory, you could fill in the entire podium with quartz bricks, and I don't know, it's not going to make that much of a difference. However, this is a really helpful reference for later on in the video for when you're going to place your columns and the walls to the cellar. So for the moment, I'm just filling in this area with quartz bricks. But again, you could fill in the entire podium if you wanted to. If you've got world edit, it might be easier to use world edit for this. If you're building this in survival or any replica of this in survival, then you are definitely going to want to place 14 from the front abutments into the middle and then fill this off. It's going to make it so much easier for later in the video to serve as a reference point. Now for the next step, what we're going to basically be doing is we're going to come to the edge of that indent right there, and we're going to place 2 extra blocks. Now that's going to serve as the inside wall for inside of the cellar, basically. So we're going to place 2 there. Then on this side, we're going to place 3 in from the side, and we're going to take that all the way to the back, all the way to the back of the cellar. And we're going to do the same on the other side as well. Now on the back, it's going to be 3 again. So we're going to come 3 again from the back. And then on the side, as I said before, it's going to be 3 in, 3 inwards, and we're going to fill this all the way in. Now this hole in the middle is going to really help us later on in the video to actually show where we're going to be placing things in terms of the wall, but then also for the second part of this video for the actual interior. It's going to make it really, really easy because it serves as a very, very useful reference point. Now for the next step, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the first row of columns, so the portico in the front of the building. We're going to come 2 from the edge and then 1 inwards from there, and we're going to place 2 red terracotta upwards. Then we're going to leave a 2-block gap, and we're going to be placing 6 of these. As I said before, it's a hexastyle temple. We have 6 columns in the front, and this is going to help us later on in the video. Now I'm going to come 6 quartz pillars upwards, and then we're going to be taking 2 polished basalt blocks, and this is going to be a really basic Corinthian column design. This temple is of the Corinthian order, and it will be using that type of column design. Now we're going to want to repeat this pattern for the whole of the front of the portico, but first of all I'm going to show you exactly where we're going to be placing our columns, and that's going to serve again as another good reference. So we're going to basically be putting every 2 blocks a red terracotta block. And how the Romans calculated this is you want to take your front number of columns, times that by 2, and then you're going to want to basically subtract 1 from that length, from that doubled number. So in this example, we have 6 at the front, times by 2 is 12. So then we're going to remove 1 and we're going to have 6 by 11. And that's going to be the equation for the proportions of this temple. Now at the front, I'm just going to be coming inwards from the front on the 4th column, and I'm just going to be having some sort of indication on what is at the front. Now, this arrangement is called a pseudo-peripetal arrangement of columns, where basically all of the cellar columns are engaged with the walls. This is different to Greek temples. Most Greek temples did not have this arrangement. Now, what you're going to be doing, I'm using World Edit here to make the video go a bit faster, but you're going to replicate that Corinthian column design for the following columns. So all of the columns in the front, and then the 2 that follow backwards from those, you're going to be replicating the exact same design for these columns here. All the rest of them are going to be doing something different. These columns are engaged, so you do not need to do this. Now, the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be building the corners. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go 2 up, then 6, then 2 with the polished basalt. But on these corners here, you're going to be putting your deep slate stairs with the fence gates. Then again, 2 up, 6, 2, then you're going to be taking your deep slate stairs, mangrove fence gates, and that is your basic pattern. We're going to be removing these now because we know exactly where the front wall is. Now for the side ones, we're going to be doing the exact same design, but we're only going to need 1 stair and 1 fence gate. And it's going to be the same for all of the engaged columns because the wall is basically attached to the column itself. Now for the back corners, we're going to do the exact same thing as we did with the front corners. We're going to be doing 2 stairs and 2 fence gates. Now if you've got World Edit and you've just built one of these, you can copy them all around, or if you're going to be doing this manually in Survival or in Creative, then you can just follow the video. Now this is the basic design of how we're going to be doing this. So again, you can do 2, 6, 2, 1 there, 1 there, and you get the basic concept. The same here, we're going to be doing 2, I've done that one wrong, I'll come back and fix that later. So it's 2, 6, 2, and then you put your stair and your fence gate in that area. Now I'm going to be using World Edit to fix all of these parts, but if you're not using World Edit, pause the video and replicate all of the rest of these columns. So just this one with the 1 stair and the 1 fence gate on all of the rest of these columns. You want the stair and the fence gate to be facing outwards of the building, and that basically serves as like the capital that is at the top of your column, which is going to then connect to the entablature on top of the wall, as we call it. And as you can see, you've then got all of your different column designs in your basic temple arrangement. So you can pause the video just to check that you have done the exact right step. And you can see we've got that then cellar area in the middle, which is going to help us be a reference point. Now the next thing we're going to do is going to do the walls. So the first thing we're going to want to place is we're going to want to come 1, 2, and then on the 4th column there, we're going to take bone blocks, and we're going to basically do up until that middle column there, we're going to be placing a block of quartz. So it's 5 blocks inwards of bone, then it's a quartz block, normal quartz block, and then in between all of these columns we're going to be doing the exact same thing. This is a very, very easy pattern to replicate. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible for this. I mean, you can do loads and loads of different materials. I mean, Roman temples and Greek temples were actually quite colourful in terms of how they were painted. And in the front door, we're going to be building 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on top of that. So it's 6 in total, but then it's 5. And then for the detail on top, so basically the architrave on top of the door, just take some upside down stairs like so. And that's going to be the most complicated thing we're going to be doing for these walls. Then you're going to take white concrete, block of quartz, 3 up on top of the white concrete. So as you see here, we've got white concrete, it's 3 tall above the bone block, and then we've got the block of quartz on top of that. It just adds a bit of texture. I mean, you can basically take this and you can change the materials. I mean, anything that looks, you know, similar color will work. And then take bone blocks and fill this all the way up. You want to come 2 on top of the door here, right? So we want 1 more on top. And as you see at the top of the door there, where the architrave of the door is, it's 2 up from that. Then just take normal basalt blocks and do that on top. So it's in line with the tops of the columns. Now on the sides, we're going to be doing something slightly different. If you take some light grey terracotta and fill in the tops, in between all of these blocks, and you're going to be repeating the same for the rest all the way around the outside. Again, guys, this is going to be a very, very repetitive build. It might be, you know, it might take a few tries to get all the materials and get this done. But again, I'm going to be providing a world download in the description. So basically, the same thing that we did on the front, we're going to be doing the same on all of the walls that basically enclose the cellar of this building. So you're going to take your 3 high white concrete, like so. As we're just filling this in here in the video. But if you did want to do a change in colours, I mean, you want to use like white terracotta or any other colour terracotta, to be honest. I mean, it looks really nice. As long as you've got the same colour that's running around, as I just fixed up there. You know, a lot of these temples were painted with different colours. I mean, particularly earlier period Roman buildings, they were painted with all sorts of colours. They weren't just white limestone or whatever. They were really colourful, so you can really use this as a base in terms of like how you want to place stuff, but the materials, you can really use whatever you want, to be honest. They built in really any material across the Roman Empire. Then again, on top, we're just going to be filling in with the bone blocks. So we're just doing 4 high in this gap here. And this is basically going to build what you call the cellar, which is the main room as such of the Roman temple. Okay. Now, as you see, we can just come on the outside and we can check, and you can see that there's all these different bands of colour that run across the walls and all the engaged columns, which looks really nice, I think. You can just do a single colour, but I think it adds a little bit more depth. Now, the next thing we're going to be doing is something called the entablature, which is the superstructure of mouldings and bands across above the columns on classical temples. And we're going to be doing this with 3 materials. We're going to be using chiselled sandstone, birch planks, and red nether bricks. Now, all the way on top of this, we're going to be using the chiselled sandstone block. So we're going to speed this up here, so it's less boring. But again, birch planks, and this is going to form the bands of the entablature. Now we're going to come back and we're going to be adding bits on top of each of these bands, which will separate it into the sections of the entablature that runs between the columns. But this is the basic, the basic bands that are going to be running between the columns. And this was simply like the superstructure of the Roman temple above the columns. Now the next thing is the architrave. So in terms of Roman temples and the columns, the architrave was the lowest horizontal beam of the entablature that spanned between the columns. When we refer to an architrave on a door or a window, it's something totally different. But in this case, this is the architrave. Now, the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be just filling in the ceiling of the portico. So if you just follow with some smooth quartz blocks, like so, leaving 4 2x2 gaps, like so, which we're going to come back with the granite stairs. So just simple pattern like so on the layer of the birch planks. And then if you just take some granite stairs and you just place them on all sides upside down, you get a nice indent, which replicates a lot of the Portico ceilings. I mean, I'm going to show a quick example in a moment of the same building that we're using as an example, the Maison Carrée in Nimes in France, which has this beautiful ceiling in it. It's one thing that lots of people neglect when they build Roman temples and like classical Greek temples in Minecraft. A big thing was when you enter a temple and you look upwards, what do you see? And they put a lot of attention and effort into actually, when you enter a temple, what do you see on the ceiling? So anything that replicates this grid pattern in Minecraft with just some small indents with a different color works really well. You don't have to use granite. I mean, you can use really any color stairs you want to, but something that's a different color to the white really helps to bring out the actual texture and the pop of the building. It makes it feel painted, if you get what I mean. So you go, this is just the example that I'm using of the Portico ceiling in the Maison Carrée. As you can see, it's actually coming together now. It's a bit of a trust the process, the Roman temples. They are quite a tough nut to crack, but once you get them, it's really satisfying when they come together. So the next bit we're going to be doing is something called the frieze, and we're just going to be placing mangrove buttons. You could do something more complicated, but because the frieze normally had all sorts of statues and carvings, but I'm just going to be using buttons for this example. And the frieze was the widest horizontal element of the entablature, which was the most ornately decorated. So you see like the Elgin marbles in the British Museum, most of that is the frieze of the Parthenon. Now if we do the ceiling on the inside, so basically if you take the same idea that we used for the ceiling in the front, but we're just going to be using just normal quartz slabs on the lower level, so of the chiseled sandstone layer, and we're just going to be leaving 2x2 gaps in between all of these. Now we're going to be doing something slightly different. We're not going to be using stairs. We're going to be building another block on top, and then we're going to be filling it in with quartz pillars, which again add to this like gridded, ornate floral effect that you see in a lot of the Roman temple ceilings and Roman civic building ceilings. Now a good tip to use with this is that these actually all run in line with all of the columns. So if you're struggling a bit to figure out where to place your slabs, just look for the tops of the columns and just follow it all in line with those, and just run literally lines from the edges of all the columns, and you will get this exact pattern if you just follow the exact grid that is formed by the columns. As you can see, you get this really nice grid pattern on top. Now, it's quite difficult to place the quartz pillar blocks in the right way without actually placing something on top. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be placing birch planks. Now I'm going to speed this bit up as well, just so it's not going to take like 20 minutes of the video showing you how to fill in a hole. But you know, if you got wild at it, this will be really quick. In survival, I mean, you could use different methods, but the idea is you want something on top of this next layer, so not, you know, on the layer of the red bricks. You want something on top to basically place your quartz pillars on top of. If you're not using quartz pillars and you just want to use a normal block, just totally skip this step. You don't need to do this. But if you are going to want to use quartz pillars, this is extremely helpful to actually placing them. You might notice it is extremely dark in here. That's my shader's fault, but just going to whack a couple of bits of glowstone in here just so you guys can see. Yeah, it's still a bit dark, but you kind of get the idea. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to fill all of these 2x2 blocks, gaps, with 4 quartz pillar blocks. And we're going to want to be placing them down so you actually see the inside of the pillar. So you get these 4 like rosette patterns on the inside of this grid. And when you actually eventually light up the temple, when we do the interior in the second part in the next video, it has a really beautiful texture on top. As you can see, it starts to look really, really nice once you've done that. But again, I mean, the thing is with building Roman temples, and I think the challenge the big challenge that that often people who build these things in Minecraft have is actually like replicating the details that people maybe don't look at or maybe don't think about when you build in Minecraft. Things like the ceilings or like the pillars on the inside, or simple things like the frieze and the architrave on like the entablature. Sometimes people will just build columns and then they'll just build the roof pitch, and you've missed a good section of the temple, which really makes it stand out as a Roman temple and not just like something with columns and a roof, if you get what I mean. It's quite tough to crack, but once you get like the idea of and you look at a few Roman buildings and go, okay, this is how they built it, then it's really easy to replicate them in the future. It's just about getting a little bit of practice and seeing, okay, how do you make something that is really detailed. So the next step we're going to be doing, so this is a little bit less to scale, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building something called the dentils. This is the uppermost part of the entablature. So a dentil was basically a small repeating block found typically in the cornice. So the bottom of the cornice and the top of the entablature, which resemble teeth, as in the name dental, coming from the similar word in Latin. So what we're going to be doing is on these blocks as so, we're going to be placing just smooth quartz slabs at 2 block intervals. This is just going to help us basically take, our stairs. And then we're going to be putting just the normal, not smooth quartz, normal quartz stairs upside down, like so. And then we're going to be cutting back like this. And the idea is you basically get like a 1 block gap in between each of the dentils that we're making with the quartz stairs that stick downwards. Now the important thing to do is you want to place again the quartz slabs on the top of the red nether bricks. So this again, I mean, if you're building this in survival, this might be a little bit difficult. I mean, a good thing to use maybe is scaffolding. I mean, you could like crouch on top of the blocks, but then again, that's going to be quite difficult. So, I reckon the best thing to do is just use some scaffolding if you're in survival. I mean, if you're in creative, it's pretty easy. But again, even if you are, it's quite fiddly to place it. So the key is to be a little bit patient with these. They can be really, really annoying, but it's well worth the effort. It looks really amazing once you get it right. So basically the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the pediment. Now, getting the angle right is really tough because the most perfect Roman roofs were considered to have an angle of 22.5 degrees. Now, this did vary, but actually getting like the ideal angle as such is quite difficult. So if you follow me here, I'm just going 1 up, then I've got 2 built with slabs, and I'm going to do 1 block here, and then 2 here. So it's quite difficult to do. It's a tough, fiddly shape to get. And oftentimes, like Greek roofs had a flatter pitch, whereas Roman ones typically had a steeper pitch. Generally, however, that wasn't like the single rule as such. But it's quite tough to get. So it might take a couple of goes to get this one right. When I designed this at first, it took ages to figure out what the actual right angle is. Now on the inside, I'm just going to offset this by a slab. So we're going to make it a little bit deeper, and if you just place a slab on the bottom block and then the slab below, if you understand what I mean when I say that. And what this does is this adds an extra bit of depth on the inside of the pediment that basically shows, it just adds another extra bit of shadow, an extra bit of detail on the inside, because the pediments, the front of the pediments were not flat as such. Now what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be building the actual decorative elements of the Roman temple. And these were known as the antefix and the acroterion. So the acroterion, or acroterium as the Romans called it, was the bit in the middle, which was basically a platform. We're going to just use basalt here, which was a platform where it had like a ornament or a statue, and then the antefixes were typically just statues. And this is common in lots of classical buildings in both Greek and Roman temples. However, a classical temple did not have to have an acroterion or an antefix to be a classical temple as such. So it's not like, you know, the rule, but quite a lot of them had it, and the most important temples definitely did have it. Now in the middle here on this red terracotta, I'm just going to be placing some birch buttons on the inside. And it just adds a little bit of extra detail on the inside. Now what we're going to want to do is we're basically going to want to do the exact same on the back. So you can just, you know, replay what we just done, but again, if you just do 2 blocks there, 1 slab, then come all the way along the bottom with some slabs, do 2 full blocks there, 1 slab, full block, and then 2 slabs, like so. So they're kind of like an offset full block, and then you've got 1 full block there, 2 full blocks, 2 full blocks, 2 full blocks, and then 1 full block there. Then just going to do the iron on the inside, and then we're just going to offset this again as we did on the front. So if you've got World Edit, you can just copy this. If you're in, you know, creative or without World Edit in survival, then you are going to have to just rebuild the same on the back. But again, it's, you know, I think the thing is that getting the angle right is quite tough in the first instance. Once you've got the angle right, it's quite easy to build. So again, just the blocks of iron, and we're going to be building the antefixes, so just 2 stairs like so. Polished basalt, upside down, smooth quartz stairs, and then just a couple of diorite walls in the middle. Super duper easy. Now in the middle again, just take some red terracotta. We're going to be building this up there, as so. And just knock this one out. So we just want to have 3 from the edge like so, and then just whack some buttons in here. I mean, you don't have to do that. I just like to add it so it just looks like some sort of writing. I mean, oftentimes they had Roman temples typically had the painted statues and details on the inside, whereas the actual Greek ones had fully sculpted elements on it. But it's really personal preference, really what you want to do. Now for one of the last steps of the exterior, the first part of this temple, we're going to be taking some brick stairs. This is a bit unorthodox in how to build a roof, but what I like to do is I like to put just 2 brick stairs on the edge, and it looks like the kind of varying up and down tile pattern that you get on a lot of Roman buildings, a lot of the big ones that you see. So if you just do the 2 from the edge, you're going to fill this in just with normal stairs, a load of brick stairs, like so. And there you have it. Now on this block right here, you're going to take just full block of bricks, super easy, and you're going to run it all the way to the back. Now this is just going to hide, you know, it's going to basically make it solid, if you get what I mean, but it's also going to help you when you're building your next layer of stairs. So again, here what we're going to want to do is from the 3, if you see in this example, yeah, so what we're going to want to do is that you just take on this block here, you're going to go 1, 2 from there, so I'll just fix that there, and then you're just going to run it all the way back. So you should have a gap of 3 rather than 2, as you see there. I was just checking that there for you guys. Then all the way back the same that way, as you can see. And then in the middle here, we're going to do the exact same thing, just full blocks of bricks, super easy. Run it all the way to the back, and this is going to really help us when we're placing the stairs, because without full blocks they can be an absolute nightmare to place, as you probably already know. You're going to want to just light this up as well, because it can be filled with bats, like absolutely teeming with bats if you don't, and mobs as well. So yeah, 3 block wide, just single normal stairs, and just fill in this entire gap over here, like so, on top of this full block as well, and just take it all the way to the back. Then you're going to want to do the exact same thing on the other side. Now you could do this with just slabs, and you could just, you know, gradually ramp it up as per the roof profile at the front. However, I don't actually think it needs that. The actual like shape of the roof, it's kind of like an optical illusion if you think of it. The actual full block gap isn't so noticeable if you've got the stairs as such. I don't think so, at least. And then if you've got the very bright white solid, you know, quartz blocks at the front, which basically show your actual angle of the roof, it makes it actually not very noticeable. I mean, I guess you can let me know in the comments what you think about this. If you think it actually looks better with the slabs. Again, it's personal preference. I quite like it with the stairs, but you guys let me know in the comments what you think about that as well. But I think it adds like a really nice, staggered texture. On the top, I'm just going to be building a spine like this. I mean, it's super easy. You could just have single flat blocks. I like to have a little turn at the end, but it doesn't quite connect, but I still think it looks quite nice. And again, just replicating the exact same thing on this side. Like so. And just filling in this one as well. Now, you can also place this with World Edit. Most of the time, if you place it with World Edit, it will stick to like the basic, the basic staggering shape, but sometimes it really won't work. I don't really understand how World Edit decides how it places stairs. I mean, someone can maybe tell me in the comments how it works. I've used World Edit for like years and years and years, and I still don't get it. Maybe I missed a trick or something, but yeah. But if you just place it normally, I mean, it's not too tedious, and you get the basic shape as so. So guys, phew. I mean, that is just the exterior of the temple. I mean, it's a very, very long tutorial. I'm just gonna add a couple of little details here. I mean, this is totally optional with an anvil and a campfire. Looks like a little cauldron on the front. But that is the basic like front and sides and roof of the temple. Now in the next part, I'm going to be doing just basically a guide on how you're going to build the interior of this temple, and that's going to be a shorter video, but that should come out in the next few days. I really hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you've learned a little bit of Roman temples. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video for the interior of this Roman temple. Have a good day, guys, and I will see you in the next one.